Let's go to our panel now for a look at the religious freedom and the rest of the politics of the day. David Gazzard and Ben Oquist join me as they do every week. Gentlemen, great to see you both in the studio. Ben, the Prime Minister said to the Coalition Party room yesterday they need unity and discipline. There's not a lot of that on show right now.
No, there sure isn't. And, disunity is death in politics, as they say. I mean,
I know that's a cliche. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. It just looks messy, sloppy. I mean, with friends like Antic and Dawson and Canavan, who needs enemies? I'm going to just indulge me for 1 second and read the opening sentence from Paul Kelly today. Only the populist Conservatives could have turned Australia's belated vaccine triumph with near world-beating vaccination rates into a shameful and humiliating fiasco for the Morrison government. I mean, that's the problem, is that his own side have caused maximum chaos right on the eve of an election in the last sitting weeks and turned what should have been a successful vaccine rollout into a mess. And they've attacked the vaccine rollout by being against vaccine mandates, and it's a complete shambles.
Well, George Christensen, before question time, refers to some of the state government policies, compares them to Mao and Stalin. He says urges civil disobedience. The Prime Minister must be pulling what hair is left out at the moment, because I tell you what, it's not a good look, is it?
You never want to have a situation where you've got disagreement, although it is more common within the coalition because it's a party of individuals and individual freedoms. That is the way that the coalition's structured.
That's fine if they vote for your agenda, but they're not voting for
totally right. So there's a need to get there, and we've talked a lot about over the last year and a half about viewing what has been a public health crisis through an ideological lens. So there is that point where the coalition doesn't have a mandate, and there are those who believe in freedoms of individuals to choose. So you're in that sort of zone. I don't think it is a blow, as Paul says, that Australia's done superbly well comparative to the rest of the world on vaccines. We have a much higher vaccine rate. The PM and the coalition have done absolutely everything they can to get that vaccine rate up. We lead the Western world in vaccinations. And we've suffered, roughly 1,000 deaths as opposed to hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands of deaths in other like-minded countries. So we've done superbly well.
Yeah, so I get all that, and that's a reasonable argument to make. The Prime Minister's trying to make it. He's undermined by his own side. Yeah,
well, I mean, really? Is he really undermined? Over the course of this whole thing, you've got some backbench senators who are appealing to some pre-selectors. These are on the backbench. These do not speak for the executive of government. They do not set the trend for where the government's going on vaccines and on COVID. We have an admirable record, but it is not the party of the collective where people's individual views are stifled and stamped out. That's just not the way the coalition works.
Talking about civil disobedience is a bridge too far, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I would think that. Most people would think that, but this is society, right? People have a right to say to speak their minds, and you've got a right to say, I don't agree with you. I find that a view that I don't believe in.
And so if you've got this scenario where the Prime Minister, and he said it, I thought it was quite a potent line. He said, people try to pull me to the left, they pull me to the right, I'm in the middle. And I think he'll say that a lot more in the lead up to the election, because it's a message that will resonate with a lot of people. And I guess it goes to David's point that if the Prime Minister can say to those watching, I am listening to you, I'm in the middle, I might have some of my colleagues who are off with the pixies, but I'm not.
Yeah, if he can hold together and do that, that's a message. But it doesn't look like an adult government at the moment. So, yes, you can make that pitch, but if you don't look like an adult government, it's not just this. Barnaby Joyce was saying he didn't sign up to net zero by 2050 a minute ago. So I think it's feeding into a wider look at a messy government. And to be on the eve of an election and not be seen to have an agenda, to be, religious discrimination, clearly a bill, a solution in search of a problem, and they're not even going to push it through. Meanwhile, they've got the ICAC legislation, which they've promised for ages and they know the public wants, that they won't put through. I thought Trent Zimmerman spoke well on this morning by saying you shouldn't prioritise one set of rights over another rights. But again, it all fed into the idea that two things, that the government doesn't have a coherent, meaningful agenda for the whole population, and two, that they're divided, and that's the problem.
David, I'm really interested in your analysis of where this battle is between the Prime Minister and Anthony Albanese at a sort of one-on-one level, because you saw that today with the government saying to Labor that you're a weak leader, targeting the economy, targeting national security. The Labor Party saying you're the liar from the Shire, just targeting character. They wanted a referendum on Scott Morrison's character. Where is all this at?
I think what we're witnessing is an unprecedented assault on the PM's character from the Labor Party. And to me, that's not what Australians want to see. We're coming out of COVID. We've had all kinds of problems and challenges within the COVID battle, things that no one could predict anywhere in the world. The government has worked tirelessly to fix that. We now move to the stage where the economy is fragile, but we need to work on that. And there's one side of Parliament for only political gain trying to rip down the guy that's got us through that. So, and that is being fed by the Labor movement more generally, progressives everywhere, and states. So the states that are Labor. So I just think he's under assault from the Labor Party more generally. There will be a debate that plays out over who is best to go forward to take the country through, to keep that recovery that is in green shoots going. And that is where Anthony Albanese will have to present an alternative and not just use question time to abuse the Prime Minister.
So that's the challenge, to get it to that prism of economy versus that character.
I can tell you where voters traditionally go, and they think about who is going to be able to lead the country to keep their jobs viable, to keep their kids' jobs viable, and slanging in the Parliament doesn't cut it.
David, Ben, appreciate it. See you next week.
Kieran. The bottom 20% get nothing. They're really unfair tax cuts.
People want to see much stronger action from the government when it comes to climate change.
It's no coincidence that we have a wages crisis in Australia.
Transitioning to net zero emissions, it doesn't seem like there's much room for gas.